Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
This may come as a shock, but I'm going to say it. Money doesn't necessarily buy happiness. We've always heard money will make everything change. Not really. If you look at some of the research and some of the data, we're going to talk about that today. Interesting that she's got a very deeper spin on finances. She offers bookkeeping services, accounting services to lots of companies, especially those that deal with warehousing, logistics, and so much more. But she also looks at the psychology behind all of this, the mindset that goes along with it. And that's what really makes her radically different as the owner and founder of Equilibrium Consultants. Kat Scardaville is back with us. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. I'm in my journey. I've discovered just what we're going to talk about today.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. And if you take a cue from people who've won the lottery, I don't know the exact numbers, but it just comes back over and over that people who won millions of dollars instantly in the lottery, everything was great, but then it wasn't. And now they don't even have that money anymore. So kind of just reframes it where I think the number is like 90%-ish of people that have won the lottery weren't happy. What have you found? You've got some data to share.
Yes. Yeah. So, the first data I'm going to share is by the notorious BIG, Mo Money, Mo Problems.
Yep.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the first one. And then the second one is a study done in 2003. It was done by two economists, Cousinhart and Denter, and they won the Nobel Prize for this. And the fun part is they recognized that there was a plateau that every individual reaches. And that plateau, inflation will always go up, but that plateau started at 2003 was $75,000 a year. And then in 2023, 2024 years, 20 years later, that turned into $105,000, right? Because inflation goes up, cost of living goes up, cost of living adjustment is usually about 3%. So I bring it up because it had to do with basic needs being met, which is something I think we review pretty frequently. So just going back to the hierarchy of needs, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if your basic needs are met, the amount of money that you earn, the rest is really just cream on top. The rest of it is really just profit. The rest of it is, if you have a plan, the rest of it is a means of investing in the future or investing in something meaningful to you, provided that you have the mindset to pursue something that you enjoy,
Yep.
So
many of us would look at that number and say, wow, 105K. Does it matter where you live, or that's just basic needs met? Anywhere.
It's just basic needs being met. That's really it. Once the basic needs are being met, if we go back to the pyramid where the 5 pillars are being met, right? The hierarchy of needs. If the bottom pillar, the legitimate foundation, is being met, the psychological, the spiritual, the physiological, the whatever, for example, I need to feel safe. If I feel safe, that's a basic need that's being met. I'm surrounded by people who make me feel safe. If I feel like I'm being supported, that's a basic need being met. Some people who are building you up and being supported, like, hey man, you can do it, go team, whatever. And then from there, it's your physiological needs. So for example, you got money for groceries, you can keep a roof over your head, You can keep the lights on, you know, you can cook, you can keep the place clean. Fundamentals. Those are
Yeah.
the absolute fundamentals. And then from there, you can make things that are happy for you, or things that are meaningful to you that can also buy you time. You know, maybe you want to invest in a landscaper because you don't really want the time. You don't have the time to mow the lawn, for example. You know, so things like that. The incendiaries. You know, so from there, afterwards, like once these things start getting narrowed down, you'll finally reach that, for lack of a better word, I'm not trying to be silly, but you'll reach that equilibrium that's meaningful to you, you know? And that's kind of the whole point, you know? What basic needs do you have? What is it that you want to accomplish first? And then we're going to build off of that. Because if you're just looking for something that's shallow and just on the surface, and you're scratching on it and whatever, we're not going to go very far, you know.
Mm. I can say through my experience and people I know, and these people will say, had that house, big house on the hill, the wife, the two kids,
Yeah.
the dog, the cats, everything was great. Everything was great. No, it wasn't.
No, sorry.
No, it
No, you're
wasn't.
right. Yeah.
And I've heard that from many that it just maybe it was a facade or just showing others that I can be successful. Um, Lyrics in a song kind of echo that. Talking Heads, Once in a Lifetime. Now, this song came out like late 70s, and I recently heard that many artists of today listen to that song, just not the message necessarily, just the way it was put together. But here's the lyrics. And you may find yourself behind the wheel of a large automobile, and you may find yourself in a beautiful house with a beautiful wife. And you may ask yourself, well, how did I
What did
get
I get
here?
here? Yeah.
It's kind
And
of
the days go by.
bye.
Yeah.
The water held me down. Kind of says it like, all right, so, you could look at your life situation. Are you really happy? And what is it come down to? Many of us, and I want your feedback on this.
For sure.
Many of us look toward these other things. I need that car. I need that house.
Hmm.
I need that over there. I need that over there to make me happy. It's going to make me happy. Make me happy. But if you're not fundamentally happy with yourself, like truly, and the stuff that we've skimmed on before, where you love yourself, you're comfortable with yourself, you know who you are, you know what you want. All you're doing is just reaching for things. And then I think that comes back to what you're talking about. If you're good with yourself, that lower salary or wwhatever, that
Hmm.
those numbers, you got what you need. Really, right?
Exactly. Yes. Yes. 1,000% yes. I had a when I worked for the family business and then I left, I was making less money, um, venturing out onto my own. And
Hmm.
I was building the business, didn't know what I was doing, but I had great guidance, and but in the interim, I was cleaning people's offices and cleaning people's, what do you need? Yeah, I'll do it, because um,
Yeah.
you're not above manual labor. No one's above manual labor. That's, like I grew up in a very blue collar family. I will never, ever, ever frown on anybody who turns a wrench, So
We
it's,
need we need those and everybody.
yeah,
You know?
exactly.
And
Exactly.
and to your point, kind of the same situation.
Yeah.
I was at a company for a lot of years. I don't say really successful. It was all good, but it was time to go. It
Hmm.
just it just wasn't feeling the same. It was time to go. I
Yeah.
took a job at a smaller company, not corporate, um, management involved, grueling hours, hands on, emptied the garbage cans in a radio group. I was running a radio group. Now I went from
Yeah.
on the air and big station to small stations, but running everything where, and I always loved that, the geeky side of that, the tech side of it, all of it. But I was emptying garbage cans. I
Yeah.
was. Hour and 5 minute, hour and 10 minute traffic one way. at
Wow.
5 o'clock in the morning. I even
Oh,
did that for this job. Pay cut, all of it. It was a very interesting experience. Learned a lot, learned about a lot about myself and all of that. But that I think that needed to take place because it was just a different mindset, different
yeah.
view of everything.
Oh, for
Um,
sure.
and I'm going to add to that, not about me, but I share because everybody's, stories can inspire.
Yeah.
The job was in the Hamptons
Oh.
of Long Island.
Oh my gosh.
And I thought, all right, salary cut, yeah, more responsibility. Just was a lot going on with that.
Yeah.
Kind of cool. I'm working in the Hamptons.
Yeah. Right on.
My analogy here is the big house on the hill. Sounded like, oh man, that'd be cool. Just I'm working in the Hamptons. Who knows? Blah, blah, blah. I would walk into a coffee shop right next door. Gwyneth Paltrow, hey, how's it going? How's it going? There's Alec Baldwin comes walking in, scruffy beard, beat up Jeep. Hey man, how's it going? How's it going? After a month of the commute and everything else, it didn't matter anymore. I could care less. It just
Yeah.
all I wanted to do was go home. The job was fine, but
Yeah.
I knew I had an hour and 10, maybe 2 hour ride going home. Just I
Right.
all the illusory of the
Yeah.
Hamptons. Like I don't need that.
Yeah.
But you don't know until you know. But it's like the house. I need the house, a big house. Huh?
Yeah.
Did you
Do
really need
you,
it? Like
do you really? Yeah.
really? Yeah. Do you when you were moving from your family employment situation to going on your own,
Mhm.
did you deep down inside know that it was going to work?
I did. Yeah. I mean, more to the point, it had to work. More to the point, there I
But
didn't
did you
have a choice.
have, even though it was, could be rocky, a little uncertainty, like your gut, your intuition, your core there, was it saying to you, it's going to be okay? Like whispering, just ride this out. You're going to be good. You're going to be
Yeah.
just chill. It's going to be good. We
Yo,
we we hearing that?
for real. Yeah. Yeah,
Mm,
absolutely. Because well, for one, um I had decades of experience that was reassuring me that, hey man, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. Don't get me wrong, I was terrified 24 hours a day, you know,
mm,
but I was also recognizing that despite living in fear all the time, um, I was also recognizing that I'm a lot happier.
mm,
You know, I have a yeah, I took a giant pay cut, but I'm also the weight is lifted. I'm able to see things more clearly. I'm able to connect with my family more. I'm able to see what my children are going through if they're going through something, that has to be addressed.
mm-hmm.
Um, and I was able to see certain things and intervene when necessary. And it was um, all because I left. I left
Wow.
a situation that was
It didn't support
in
you. It just didn't
yeah,
support
exactly,
you.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's
yeah,
with that, it needed to happen. Like I had to leave that job after, I'm not kidding, like almost 3 decades.
yeah,
Um, and it was time to go. It was time for you to go.
yeah,
But it sounds like you were piloted by what was inside of you. You knew you needed to change, but it felt okay. There was uncertainty. I got you there.
yeah, man,
And
yeah,
somebody said to me after I left that position,
yeah,
somebody who's very intuitive, who I worked with for a lot of years, still connected with, very intuitive, said to me, when you're at your lowest point, that's when you're most humble.
yes, yeah, yeah. And then you appreciate the things that maybe you once had, or you appreciate the things that you already have. So
Mm,
in my case,
mm,
I learned to appreciate what I already had. And then I also learned to appreciate that anyone who chooses to stand on their own 2 feet and go out on their own um, already has resourcefulness, and they already have connections, and they already have the means to find a way to get clients. And the whole point of getting clients is just establishing relationships between you and the person you could potentially be working with, because it's really about who wants to hang out with you, 12 hours a day or whatever.
Yep.
you know are you accessible? Can you be reached on the phone? Can you do you communicate effectively? Do you communicate quickly? Things like that. um, Most people have that who have meet all that criteria, all they need is a little push in the right direction, and a little just, hey buddy, you can do it. Okay, you know what, never mind, I'm shoving you in the deep end. Wow. So kind of thing. So
Mm.
once they recognize for themselves that, yeah, you know what, I can do this, I can do the thing. And it's rough in the beginning. It's very, very rough, because while I was cleaning offices, on my birthday, I wound up getting a job for Rutgers University, running phone lines for Cisco, the telephone system for voice over IP. And I was literally like underneath desks and on desks and just plugging the phones in, daisy chaining the computer
I
into the
gotcha.
phone. Yeah, man,
Yep.
I liked it. I enjoyed it a lot, but at the same time, I was also surrounded by all this inspiring stuff, like all these seriously credentialed professors with, this guy is responsible for the weather system in the state of New Jersey. Like the governor calls him, like, hey, are we having a storm? Like he predicted Sandy, for the
Mm.
governor at the time. And I'm like, wow, no wonder your office is so big. Okay, fantastic. You know,
Hmm.
So to be around that all the time, that's what inspired me to hustle in the way that I did, and just to be bombarded with that as I'm going through the lines over and over again, as I'm installing phones over and over again, and the pied de resistance for me was, of all places, Camden, New Jersey. And I don't know if you're familiar with Camden. It's one of the most dangerous cities in the country, and it's outside of Philadelphia, but in New Jersey.
Hmm.
So and Rutgers has a campus down there. So we were responsible for installing the phones in the campus, and that campus is not as big as the one in central New Brunswick or whatever. Anyway, there is a woman there who is basically is responsible for the education system for charter schools for the underprivileged youth down there, and she is the only living Rutgers personality who has a building named after her. And then
Wow.
yeah, and because I'm bilingual and I speak Spanish, um, myself and my team were allowed to go up there and do the installations. And I got to tell you, that woman was a firecracker. She you do not mess with this lady. Anyway, I walked into her office, and there was this narrow corridor, and it had accolades after accolades after accolades. And I remember I walked in, I had a scully on because it was winter, and I'm supposed to install the phones. I had my uniform on and everything. I've been wearing a work shirt since I was 18. So they I met her, and she looked at me like, "Oh, you look important." And then she held out her hand to shake my hand, and I took off my hat, because that's what you're supposed to do. And you hold it in front of you, very old school way of doing it. And I said, "Oh, good morning, director. How are you today?" "Oh, I'm very good. Thank you very much. How can I help you?" "I'm here to install your phone, actually." "Oh, I thought you were here from the State Department." "Okay, I'm going to, yes, please go over here. You can install the phone over there." And that was when I realized, yeah, you're right. I want to be as cool as you. And when the Rutgers gig dried up, that was when I said, "Yep, okay, yep, I'm doing this forever. That's done."
Hmm.
She thought I
Wow.
worked for the State Department. I was like, mic drop, done. I'm good. Yeah, let's do that.
Well, I give her a lot of credit, you as well, in that she treated everybody the same.
Yeah,
He didn't look at somebody based on what they looked like. You could have walked in with, a fancy suit on. You could have been in a dress, whatever it might be, dressed to the nines.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. She treated you the same. I, I think you answered what I was going to ask you.
Okay.
When you were there, being around those people and that environment, which you didn't even plan on, you were just picking up a, side hustle, whatever you want to call it,
Sure.
that the energy of the people there made an impact on you. Did you feel
Yeah,
that?
for sure. Yeah, it was something else because you're surrounded by all this knowledge and you're surrounded by all these people who have accomplished some pretty amazing things. And and I kept thinking to myself, I want to be that cool. How do I become that cool? Yeah, you gotta go to school and blah blah blah. I'm like, okay, I can do that. That's fine. Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm gonna do that. And then the pandemic happened and I went to school. I went back to school and got my thingies up here and but I never stopped studying and I still don't stop studying.
Mm.
I'm never gonna stop studying. I was always a nerd. I'm such a nerd that even when I'm watching like the comic book movies, because I used to read the comic books when I was a kid,
Did you?
my children are always like, "Can you not give us any like tidbits and facts about this movie, please?" Okay, I'll try. Yeah,
You're wired that way. And just a
yeah,
side note, I totally get what you're saying because in that job that I referred to,
yeah.
um, I I taught myself electronics so I could get into radio. I
Nice.
did. I
That's awesome.
I built my own mixer. I had no money as a kid. Literally did it. So when I took that job, I wanted to mess with the tech stuff as well. And I said to myself, the station, there's three stations. I said, I don't like garbage. I'm going to take care of that. And I
Yeah.
would very often drive up a mile up the mountain with like my car, like there's ruts,
Oh
it
wow.
wasn't paved or anything,
Oh
and
my.
go into where the transmitter was and work on it and get it to sound the way it should sound. And I feel that my purpose was part of that was just a piece of what I was doing there. But it was a great experience, humbling, interesting. Um, I think we need to be open to those instead of putting the blinders on and saying, nope, I just want the big house on the hill and that's all I want.
Yeah.
And it was in my journey, I'll tell you, 2 years ago, I was in my garage. I had just sold a house, so I'm in between, right? And I'm just staring out at the trees and I'm thinking to myself, you could be anywhere.
Mm.
You could be upstate in the mountains. You could be on a beach in the Caribbean, wherever in a shack, and that would be okay. It was like an epiphany. And then that was also, topic for another day.
Sure.
That was my realization that I believe we are spiritual beings in just a human container. And, as I was staring out at the trees, I didn't see anything but trees, and I was like, "Yeah, this is good. This is enough for me."
Oh, that for yes, all the things. Yes, there's uh, I was watching a sports documentary on the wrestling family, the Von Erichs, and the last surviving brother said, "I found the key to happiness, and that answer is nature. The key to happiness is nature."
Mm,
And I thought that was just beautiful. And
wow.
just to harken back on you
Mm,
know what you were saying about the house and the fancy pants car or whatever. Um, so after World War II, right? It was the war to end all wars, right? So we were kind of conditioned to have uh, the
mm,
house, white picket fence, 2.5 kids, a dog, all this other stuff. Um, and things were very compartmentalized. And then that was in the 50s. And then a lot of change took place in the 60s, right? There was many movements were taking place at the same time. So that kind of gave people permission to figure out their own path. And it's
mm.
because it's not cookie cutter. Everybody's different.
Yeah,
So I strongly believe that you know your retirement is very very different from somebody else's, different from mine, which is like different from my brothers or my sisters or
sure.
something like that,
Eh,
so it doesn't have to be white picket fence, blah blah blah, get the big house, but no, it's whatever
yeah.
you want it to be. There could be anything.
And to take that time to realize it, go like you take a walk in nature, take some time,
Yeah.
as you ask yourself, well, how did I get here?
Yeah, nice.
How do we find you if somebody's looking to change their financial situation within their company? I mean, you offer bookkeeping services and so much more,
Sure.
and the psychological aspect of it too. You also have it's almost like you're a financial detective to figure out what makes somebody tick, why they're in this situation. How do we connect with you, Kat?
Yeah, the detectiveness is like the funnest part for me. So it's equilibriumconsultantsnj.com for New Jersey. And then we just got a new office, so that's pretty fun. And my cell phone is 848-565-0113, or you can email us at info@eqconsultantsnj.com.
Very cool talking with you today.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
enjoyed it. Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you so
same.
much. This was fun.
It's funny when you share stories. I think it gives others a different viewpoint and maybe inspiration and all of that. Looking forward next time we get together.
Oh, for sure. Thank you so
Thank,
much.
thank you.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, I mean, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.